While several households grooms in pain, discomfort, other people felt is a tool for content creation to gain view. But this is actually an important matter that we cannot overlook or ignore. Because you see, this is not just becoming a norm, it is gradually becoming a menace, becoming a traditional, repeated pattern of disaster. And this is why we have to talk about this. The current reign that has happened and that is still happening is rendering a lot of people homeless, making properties worth millions and billions of naira to be destroyed. While we are concerned as real estate practitioners, we are going to be highlighting some of the affected areas. We are going to be talking about practical solutions that can minimize this effect. And we're also going to talk about what you must understand, why this flooding is now becoming a gradual thing, and one of the things you must avoid as you invest in Lagos. Welcome to today's show, and I'll see you immediately after this short timeout. Don't go nowhere. From the Lagos mainland, down to Lekki Phase 1, down to Ologolo, down to Ikate, to even Capital, the Akinbi axis, thousands of properties, millions of lifestyles have been affected because of this flooding. We have decided not to talk about it for a very long time because we wanted to have a practical knowledge of why this disaster appears to be a national concern. And then we have also decided not to talk extensively about it because we were actually waiting for the reaction of the state government on how they can, curtail this disaster and see if it can be, reduced to the barest minimum. However, should I say I am not disappointed by the reaction of government, or should we say that the reaction we are getting from them is gradually becoming a norm whenever we have cases of flooding? From Lekki Phase 1 to Ikate, to Ologolo, to Agungi, to Abramadesoya, to General Pit, to Shombutedo, to Ibejuleki, and other parts of the highland. This flood has become a menace. Number one, it has significantly affected the lifestyle of residents in this area. So like I said at the commencement of this video, this is not a content that we are doing for notice, but we are doing this basically so that we can understand why this thing is gradually becoming a norm and what must be done basically to avoid future effects. Because you see, as a resident of this region, I found out that we are under severe climate change. Though the Commissioner of Environment, the President of Tokunbo Laos, said that it has been predicted that the sea level will rise high and areas that are very closer to the coastal region are prone to flooding. However, what must we now do to avoid circumstances like this? While we will agree to the fact that flooding is a natural disaster, while we also agree to the fact that Lagos is not the only affected area of this flooding. However, we must also necessitate the fact that if some proactive measures have been put in place, this natural disaster would have been reduced or probably controlled in order to ensure that it should not disrupt the lifestyle, the business, and commercial activities of both rich, middle class, and the poor. Yes, I agree to the fact that some part of Ikeja was flooded. Yes, I saw the flood that happened along the Ojota Midland Lane Bridge. We saw some part of Ushudi was flooded, and some notable part of the island, part of the mainland. We saw what happened in Burudu. But the unanswered question is, what was the reaction of the government to that area? And has it become the same scenario after that event? You will notice that after these areas were flooded, within 48 hours, government responded accurately and fast to this situation. And as I can tell you, that flood has become a thing of the past. It has been raining continuously in Lagos presently, and activities in that area that seem to be affected by flood has been totally controlled, if not eradicated. But why do we see have floods in people's house in Lekki? Why do we see have floods in people's house in Shogotedo? Why is General Paint still flooded, despite the fact that there was a preventive measures that was carried out on the mainland and the situation has been adequately addressed? The first way to understand basically is that if government does not address these three important things I'll be listing on this video, if you see a sign that the Lagos state government or whatsoever government that is in charge of water resources are not ready to do these three things, if you have an investment there or if you reside in that area, it is highly advisable for you to do what? Pack your car and leave that area. Because you see, if these three things are not adequately addressed, the flood you are seeing right now is chastely. May your house, your property, and even yourself may it not be submerged by this flood, because we see this rainfall appears not to be stopping anytime soon. And for you to protect your investment, your lifestyle, as well as your loved ones, you need to take this. The very first thing that has resulted to continuous flooding on the Lagos Island is the area of what? Illegal reclamations of land. And I raised this issue a while ago. While these issues were treated or handled with a pinch of salt, I was glad when the Commissioner of Environment, in the person of Honorable Tokunbo Lawal, also said the same thing. Places where we are supposed to channel our drains, our water, and every other illegal and some other water resources are presently being sand-filled. You notice that when Tokunbo Lawal, the Commissioner of Environment, visited Gracefield Island in February, he said that a lot of developers are carried out illegal sand filling and they are selling land. When somebody reached out to me concerning that Gracefield Island, he made mention of something that was significant. And I told them that that area is not zoned for residential activities. I even went further to say that if this present administration does not do anything to address selling of properties and construction in that area, if another administration comes into power, I can assure you basically that they will force what is written or what that area is zoned for. That place is an island. It is a place for water resources. And 70% of the drainage channels from the highland is supposed to be channeled to that area. So if you are an investor in Gracefield Island, you need to watch out. You need to do the appropriate due diligence for you not to fall into this. Gracefield Island is not the only places that is presently experiencing illegal reclamation, sand filling, and every other thing. In a situation whereby there is a deliberate injuring of nature, circumstances like this are very, very, bound to happen. And these are some of the things that we need to talk about. The second area or the second major issue of flooding is the area of poor drainage or blocked drainage. I can categorically tell you that the Lagos state government, in terms of waste management, are not doing enough. And I will say, in this present administration, waste management has been not just been a failure, but a total disaster. If you should look at the Kota River, if you should look at the Agungi River, if you should look at the New Road River, you will find out that most of the drainages in those areas are plugged by refuse. Now, should we blame government alone? Now, whatsoever is happening or whatsoever is resulting to that flood is a combination of what government and residents think, and they should not blame themselves for this flood. Now, since this present administration, waste disposal has been zero, and a lot of people have converted drainage channels into what? Refuse dump. And the reason why most of these things are happening basically is due to the fact that there is no adequate enforcement of environmental laws. And even if there's an enforcement, government is not even showing willingness to tackle the problem of waste management. And that is why we need to talk about this. People in Atungi, people in Ogokolo, people in the areas of where these floodings are mostly prominent, will find out that most of their canals that should channel water appropriately to other places has been blocked. And as long as these situations are not properly and adequately addressed, what we have seen presently is child's play compared to what is coming as the situation continues to unfold. The next major causes of this flood, which is even the most prominent one, basically is poor construction and not having adequate drainage channel layout. Now, if you have been to General Paints, if you have been to Ikota, if you have been to Shongotedo, if you have been to that monastery areas, if you have been to some areas of Awoyaya and other parts of Ibejuleki, you will realize that flooding in these areas are prone to what? Man-made errors. What is causing flooding in these areas is a direct negligence of what? Real estate developers that are building in those axes. It is an eyesore. It is a complete professional ignorance for a real estate developer to put up structures that are sold in hundreds of millions. And it is also disheartening to find out that you will buy a property of 100, 200, 300, 400 million in this axis, and the developer does not have a clear drainage channel layout. And these are some of the reasons. You see, what you are seeing in these areas is child's play. Because you see, most people are building and they don't even have a small or a functional drainage channel. You see, when realtors turn your social media handle to sell a property, there are some important professional advices you're supposed to ask. Or the reason why you won't see us sell or market any property just the way other people have been doing it is because of the fact that we have exposed ourselves to intense engineering education. We are beginning to understand what makes a house to be 100% functional and what are the environmental factors that can affect you even when you buy into a property. The knowledge of these things have helped us to understand that not everything that is selling on the island should be sold to you. And these are why we need to, most times we have mostly emphasized on the need to prioritize professionalism when you are buying real estate. What is happening in Lekki Scheme 2, Ababadesoya is preventable. But what is happening, or what has happened, or most of the drainage issues that we have there are things that are just direct negligence of some real estate developers. And like I said, our government, instead of being proactive, are always reactive. And that is why we need to understand. How can you explain the situation whereby a house of 300 million is being flooded? How can I explain the scenario whereby we drove past monastery, if not for the fact that we had a good car with a sound engine, we would have been drowned in those areas. These are places that people sell properties, and the real estate developer in that area does not have a functional drainage system, and this is very, very disheartening. Let me quickly sound this note of caveat. Not all real estate developers are guilty of this, but majority of what we have seen are mostly guilty of this. So what must you now do? Is this a clear indicator that you need to stay on that region or you need to diversify? I'm going to be doing that on my second episode because I don't want this video to be unnecessarily long. So we're going to have a part 2 of Lagos flooding, how you can invest intelligently, and 3 practical ways for you to avoid flood-prone area. Please do well to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it among your friends and family, because you see, important and informative content like this will be coming your way. I am Ade Jeremy. See you in my next one. Bye for now.